So, Nick, I want to come to you with the question that kind of pulls off of this idea of what skill sets do we need, but also how do we find the right balance between this influx of data that we've got and updating actuarial models and finding, again, the right balance between how much we're relying on the technology and the data and those insights versus some of those traditional models, and how do we kind of solve that puzzle?
Well, that's a good segue from what Kieran just described. And I think Brian and I have touched upon this as well, and many of our prior conversations, some of which have been recorded. But a lot of it boils down to culture, right? So it's the investing in people makes a huge difference, but you can't have those people leave once you make the investment in there. And I would sort of unwind or rewind the tape all the way back to the beginning. My big fear around this inflection point and all of the changes that are going to be required are that insurance companies are not culturally set up to succeed. They're living in an old paradigm. And I would actually say, I would describe it as they are analog companies in a digital world. So just making the investments is similar to many of the companies I've seen in the past 5 years who have made huge investments in their internal infrastructure to basically stand in place, to be running in the same spots. The investments themselves were not worthwhile. I would almost beg anyone that has that kind of influence in their internal company that putting in a new technology is not necessarily going to help you. Hiring the best talent isn't necessarily going to help you if you have a culture that's not going to allow those things to flourish. And I think, Emma, a lot of it boils down to you. There's really no room any longer for an analog company to live in a digital world. There are some business models at a carrier that just can't seem to to sort of bust out of that sort of model. There are some business models that they can have, but ultimately they're going to have to digitize. They're going to have to transform. I almost think if they cannot transform their culture and force themselves to become that digital version of themselves and also clarify what their mission is, all of the technology and all of the good hires are just going to be wasted investments, because in this day and age you can't hire talent and expect them to stay in a culture where those people don't believe in the mission. You need to be able to brand yourself as an organization to this young talent and show that there's a mission. And if there's no digital component to it, if they don't understand what the mission is, and they come in and they're struggling with cube spaces and just irregular work from home strategies and technologies that add friction, that add work to their pile, that don't seem to be making a difference, you're going to lose those folks. So that's kind of the shingle I want to put up around this particular topic, is that we can talk a lot about who to hire, what kind of skills they should have, how you should be managing those skills, what kind of technology you should buy, but I think it's all for naught unless the culture changes. And I think that's the big thing that has to occur. That has not occurred even in this internal technology transformation. You still had analog companies that were trying to plug in technologies. They were remaining analog companies. I think the shift has to be made, and Kieran, I think, nailed it. I think you'll have a lot of digital companies that are maturing, and they're just going to eat those companies' lunch. It's just there's no way around it.